What's up, guys? Welcome to Waggle Friends English, and today we're going to have a conversation where we demonstrate how to give a fluent response.
Yeah, this is a follow-up video from what we did last week when we were talking about how to make a fluent response. Today we're going to actually do it.
And all we've planned is the question.
So we understand how valuable listening practices can be. We've done quite a few of these on our channel already. So what we want you guys to do is not just be listening to English, but also be listening to how we frame the answers to the questions that we ask.
Right.
How do we go back and forth? What's the difference between how we do it and how some other ESL speakers might do it? Because that makes the difference between a person that's just really good at a language and a person that is fluent in the language.
And we're going to put a few keys on screen so that you can kind of see when we're using a supporting reason to support something, when we're using personal experience or evidence. So I hope that helps.
So let's get to it. So the question we have to solve is, what is the best fun way to learn a language, to learn English?
This one has a lot in it because it really depends on the person.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say one thing, but it's not going to work. So for me personally, as an introvert that doesn't have a whole lot of time, I want it to really count towards something. So I don't know if it counts as fun. It's fun to me because I'm doing something.
Yeah.
But what I like to do is I like to find a person that speaks the language really well. Somebody that I like to listen to. I just love hearing them speak the language. And then what I'll do is I'll watch videos of them on YouTube. That's normally my go-to place, but I'll watch them speak on YouTube, and what I'll do is I'll imitate them. I'll repeat after them. I'll shadow their movements, their paralanguage, their facial expressions, but also their voice and their intonation. I mimic them, and to me it's kind of fun because it feels a little bit like acting, but what I'm doing is I'm like mimicking them and how they speak in the language and kind of developing a little bit of a personality in that language.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
That makes sense. So let me ask you, as an introvert though, I mean, an introvert is a person that doesn't rest around lots of people, right? So why is it that your go-to is
watching people?
Watching people.
I think it builds a sense of confidence to be able to communicate in that kind of context with those people. Otherwise, I have to learn by just jumping into the gauntlet, if you will. I have to learn by doing it myself. With Mandarin in particular, I would just kind of mimic one of our favorite teachers.
Yeah.
And though I didn't have any videos of her, I would kind of mimic her as she spoke. And there was always a phrase that stuck out to me the way she said something. A phrase that I would have already picked up somewhere else. But then I would just mimic that when we were using other conversations throughout the week. And maybe it was only one phrase because we only saw her twice a week.
Yeah.
And not in class, just talking to her and meeting her in the hallway. We had 2 class times that were the same, and our classes would let out at the same time. So we would see her and we'd always say something to catch up. Yeah. And she would always have some kind of phrase that just stuck out to both you and I. Yeah. And we would kind of mimic it and start using it throughout the week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, learning language is really special because as you go through this process, your language, your English, your Chinese, whatever it is, becomes more like the people that you're trying to learn from. So,
which is why you want to emulate a native speaker. Right,
a native speaker, and also why it's advantageous to have lots of different kinds of speakers. Because if you just get one speaker and you sound exactly like that speaker, then you're going to make the same mistakes that that person makes.
Exactly. If I had only spoken or mimicked her while I was learning Mandarin, I would only sound like her, which wouldn't have made sense. I wouldn't have been able to communicate in the area that we were in because of the minority languages there. So
that's true.
It would have been more difficult to understand a taxi driver if I only heard people like her. So I had to get the whole range going in there of proper Mandarin, mixed Mandarin, not Mandarin.
Yeah.
I had to see it all working together, and that helped a lot. But YouTube is kind of like that now that we're in the States. I can use YouTube that way, and it's a very practical way to do it.
So do you think another reason why you watch videos of people using the language is because you tried to like double up your time to say like not just the language, but you also try to find somebody that's like specialized in a field, and you like learn from that too.
Yeah, that's my second thing, because I want my time to count. I have so little to just spend on language, so what I want is that 10 minutes to really count.
Yeah.
So I like to watch people that like they're working on blog material, they're working on writing something, writing skills, how to write this or how to do this in grammar in Mandarin, which is funny because it puts me more into the academic Mandarin a little bit, but I like to see the grammar there and compare it to the grammar in English.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. You got to make the most of the time, which is why I think the idea for a lot of creators is to niche down, because it's not just how can I provide a service to everyone. It's I know people don't have a whole lot of time. Why would they watch me over something else?
I really enjoy watching native Mandarin speakers who also teach English, or they've learned English really well. Because one, they've cleaned up their pronunciation a little bit more, but not perfectly, because they know the quality of having Mandarin that still has mistakes in it.
Yeah.
So they're not going to like polish it perfectly, but they are going to slow down a little bit for the people that they're speaking for on YouTube. And I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. So yours was watching videos, but for me, it's playing games. I think it's a great way. Games are a universal tool because they have so much variety. It doesn't have to be like what people think of games as like Call of Duty or League of Legends. It's like any sort of interactive entertainment. So that could be board games, it could be video games, it could be any sort of thing where you're playing, especially with playing with friends. Yeah. But even if not, you're going to be learning a lot of vocabulary in that. Depending on the game, that could be really useful. Depending on some games, it could be very not useful.
I was going to say, I mean, for you, would you say learning like space vocabulary or like military vocabulary or something?
Medieval vocabulary.
Medieval terms.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone else out here that does this too. In my brain, I have like a trash bin for vocabulary that like when I'm learning the game or learning a new set of vocabulary, I'm definitely never going to use that one. Like, I'm going to remember it so that, I can recognize it. It's called passive vocabulary. So, like, the names of various knives and swords. In real life, I'm never going to need to know the difference between, like, a claymore and a butterfly knife in another language. I'm never going to need to learn that or use that. So, what I do is, if those items are important to me in the game, then I'll be able to recognize them. But I don't really care what they are because I'm not going to ever use them. So I put them in my trash bin over here for that vocabulary. So I can recognize them. I can use them because in the game they might be important. But I know that they'll never be important in real life. Okay,
so like in terms of Mandarin, you would never learn to write the characters or anything like that.
Not
but
really.
You'll know what a player's saying if they say it to you while you're playing.
Okay. Yeah, or vice versa. Like I might know the character but never be able to pronounce it, and I'm fine with that.
Depends on the game.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So what kind of useful terminology then would you get from playing games?
Mostly it would be slang. Like, to be able to talk to another person, especially if you're doing a game that requires cooperation, that to me is like one of the best ways to really test the language, just the language learning, because you have to be able to respond quickly. And if you get it wrong, saying, oh, I meant to say go left, but I say go right, and then your whole team dies because you said the wrong thing. That's like an immediate, gonna remember to say that right next time.
Yeah, prepositions I think are big in the games.
Yeah, prepositions, slang, directions. I think another thing is that it makes grammar really practical. I don't practical. I don't learn a lot of grammar when I'm playing a video game. But if there are some things that happen that I need to be able to express that in a certain way to my friend that is playing, like if we are playing a game like League of Legends, to say, I need you to go over there because I will meet you after this. Like I can learn some elements of grammar, but not really complex ones. Useful ones, basic ones that I can reinforce. So maybe it's more like reinforcing language learning, not actually acquiring language.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, you'd be learning commands, you'd be learning minor sentences, you'd be learning all kinds of exclamatory phrases. But you'd also be using like the way people say things when they're kind of stressed out or freaking out.
Yeah.
And fast language, because nobody's going to slow down to teach you the language while you're playing.
And I think that's
kind of makes sense.
Part of the reason why I enjoy that is because it is not a language learning environment necessarily. It's a we're doing something environment,
Right.
which I actually really enjoyed getting out of the classroom and actually going and doing something.
Right.
Since I'm in America, that's a lot harder to do if I'm trying to study Chinese. But if I start playing League of Legends on a Chinese server, then I can practice my Chinese quite a bit because I can just talk to the people on the server. Kind of like that.
So let's compare learning English or another language in a fun way, like what we just discussed our opinions on, versus like learning in a more structured way.
Yeah, I think people that are really serious about studying a language, I think that is a really hard question. Because if I'm really serious about learning a language, I can't do like 100% of the time over here or 100% of the time over here, but I do have to give time to each of these methods. We have to make a decision somewhere. Like we can't say...
You're not saying like one or the other. You're saying how much time am I going to give to this versus this?
Right,
okay.
right.
Yeah.
Because if you just say one or the other, then you're going to be at a deficit for the other, but you still probably are going to prioritize one over the other, practically or by necessity. Life just happens and you don't have any time to do the fun stuff, so you do all the work stuff, all the business stuff. That has to come into the discussion. Personally, I think learning English in a fun way is better though, because you have a lot of reinforcement that happens naturally instead of like a business context or an academic context where they kind of like try to almost fabricate that to happen with grades and other things. Like, as opposed to that in a fun way, it just happens because of life and the environment. Like if you're playing a game and you lose because of your language, you lost the game. Like it's the natural result. But if you lose in an academic context, you fail the test or you fail the class. Both of them are fabricated. Both of them are fake because somebody somewhere out there in the world has decided that you failed because of X, Y, and Z. But in my opinion, for some reason, the game seems to be a better way because it's a more natural motivator.
That's for you, though.
Yeah.
Because for me and how my mind works, I prefer to start from structure and then learn like the hard way how to do something. Yeah. And then ease into, okay, but this is how people say it on the street. Like, because people don't talk like a textbook. Yeah. So if I want to learn just informal English, for me, it helps to have a little bit of structure, not even a lot, but maybe a lot, I don't know, of all the time that I have to dedicate to language learning. Yeah. Dedicating probably 30% to structured learning, and then reinforce that with a lot of listening, a lot of just hearing people when I'm going and sitting in the coffee shop, or like watching a lot of YouTube videos, or doing something with the language, speaking it myself, doing something with it. Yeah. Because if I just do the structured method, whether that's a class, whether that's tests and stuff, I might become really good at grammar, but not be able to speak or listen very well in an informal context. But if I can do a little bit of the very structured and then ease off to rest and teach myself to rest in the target language, doing fun things like just fun things, or research things like how do I fix my toilet kind of research and just listen to a Chinese speaker rather than an English speaker, then I find that to be far more helpful to me personally. But I am also a grammar-minded person. Yeah. Like, I enjoy seeing the patterns and learning long division before doing the shortcut stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I feel like this discussion is kind of like, so we have two idioms. Work before play. That's an idiom. Very easy. Just work before you do the fun thing. Or all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So the idea is like, which one are you going to have to do? Like we said, it's a little bit of both. Where you fall, though, is where I think is where it becomes interesting. Because no, I don't just do fun stuff all the time. No, she doesn't just do work stuff all the time. It's how do we allocate, how do we set aside time, and how do we divide that time into different areas that I find very special and unique and interesting because it's based on personality.
Yeah, it really does come down to personality. But also, you are an oral learner. Like, you learn by hearing and doing things. Yeah. I'm a very visual and doing something, kinesthetic learners. We share one,
Yeah.
but we're two opposite ends of the spectrum on the other hand. So for Josh, he can sit in a lecture and be fine. He'll learn something. For me, I've got to be writing the notes. Otherwise, it's in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. So I guess the idea behind this all is the best method really does come down to the personality of the student and how they can best use that time. You can't just go all in on one. Don't listen to people that say that there's this one magic pill to learn all languages, because it's definitely not there. But you definitely do have to kind of separate out the time between the fun things, between the structured learning, between the doing, and so that you guys can have a variety approach. This is the idea of not putting all your eggs into one basket.
Right. And to help you guys with this, we are developing behind the scenes Fluency Fast Track, which is a membership program where you guys can come in and get that little bit of structured learning, but approaching it with a reminder of what you learned in school.
Right.
And really just heavy reinforcement on, but this is how we say it.
Yeah.
This is how we speak it.
This is actually how Americans use it, which is really complicated because that's not what the textbooks say, because it's really complicated and it's really hard. And so a lot of them omit stuff that is really, really important for you to know to actually be fluent.
Right. So we are looking forward to giving you guys this opportunity to learn English the way we actually speak it, see it broken down, but then actually utilize it in exercises and drills and group classes and things like that. We're just really excited to get that turned out to you. And it will be coming here in a few weeks. So if you want to learn more about that, then sign up for our email list below. It's in the description. You can find it in the comment section. We're really excited to turn this out to you guys. And we're working really hard to get it done.
And be sure to subscribe to our channel, because we're going to give more updates, but also more helpful videos like this one, so that you guys continue to make your English better and better.
Absolutely. With that said, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.